Hello. Is it legal to be normal and well adjusted or try to be in the United States these days? No, that's the God and country thing. That's the one where in the United States, that's what made the United States such a magical place to live, especially after the World War II era, the 1950s. They were a normal and well adjusted person, even though that's not a natural thing. And they were a good husband and a good wife, and then a good father and a good mother. And it spills into home economics. And it's home economics made the United States such a magical place to live. And so we've been going on YouTube on Saturdays and then again on Sundays at 12 o'clock New York time, and trying to get gals who are single moms who are having such a hard time of it. There's good reason for that, to call in and tell us how much money they make, what's their budget, and if they're making it or not, and they're not, and then to go back and place themselves into the 1950s. If you were married and hubby made the income, there was home economics, and you had a household to run. You ran the household like a business, the production side of things, and you had 2.2 children and a husband to take care of, and you had a 3-bedroom brick house and a half-acre lot. How much of a budget would you need? If somebody walked up to you and you're in St. Louis and you say, this is ridiculous, and somebody said, okay, go find a house, set everything up so that everybody's out of poverty and into plenty. How much money would you need? How much for groceries and clothes and piano lessons for the children and tennis lessons for yourself? Because if you're doing the producing, you're doing the consuming. And that's one of the magical things about our era, or the 1950s era. And then to ask the guy, okay, if you have a job is something that produces things. The proverbial plumber has a job, a professional athlete doesn't. An architect that puts you in your own house has a job. The architect that builds a duplex and starts renting property to you not only doesn't have a job, he's the bad guy, he's the enemy. So let's go over here. I've been trying to go live the past handful of weeks, and I can't get anybody to so much as listen. So I think I'm doing something wrong. So if you're listening to this, please chime in and then tell us, look, this is ridiculous. This is how much money I need to get everybody out of poverty and into plenty. And then if you're a guy, this is how many hours I would have to work in order to come up with that budget. I guarantee you it'll be more than 40. Just as a reminder, how much, what is home economics? Home economics is when the married couple is viewed as a single unit, and it's the smallest economic thing. It's as opposed to communism and fascism. It's as opposed to the people living in the Southern Mansion and the communist proletariats or fascists, whatever they're called, are living in the slave quarters. They're living in communist housing projects, or they're renting property. So you come over here, and there's a married couple, and they're normal and well-adjusted, as best human beings can. And they have a living room to live in, and a dining room, and a kitchen to support the dining room, and a garage with a big American car in the garage. And that's what gets you out of poverty and into plenty. And then, just as I said, you go off to the side, start at the bottom, start with farming and mining, then above that manufacturing, above that wholesale, retail, and repair, above that retirement, education, and recreation. Doctors and lawyers form a kind of ladder that holds it all together, and it's the Catholic priest that causes it to come into being to begin with. It's a religious thing, comes out of popes and monks and monasteries. You take your hand and push away. You ask the gal how many oranges she wants to use, and you know how many orange trees to plant in order to give her everything she wants. And as long as all of the people who do the producing do the consuming. In other words, picture the guy and he goes to work at a furniture factory, and then you go back to that couple and they ask themselves, would they rather have a couch or a couple of recliner chairs And let's say they choose a couch, and let's say she chooses this fabric and this particular style. And then you can see all of the farming, all of the trees that are planted, all of the crops that turn into the material, and all of the manufacturing, and all of the stores and the advertising. Everything's geared towards getting that gal that couch in her living room. And that's how you get plenty. Well, that was terrific. That was the ideal society. That's the ideal society out of coming out of people like Socrates and Aristotle and Plato and Christ. Christ had to come in and sort of dot the letter I and make it it becomes a God and country thing. And it was all thrown out. And you're either living in the foothills collecting rent from everybody, and you'll keep it up till society crashes, or if in your world you die off before that happens, or you're living in sheer poverty. You're a peon, and you're not called a peon for nothing. And this is ridiculous. This goes against what the United States stood for. One of us is committing treason. It's not us here. Just so it said, in the 1950s, the communists said they would overthrow the United States by about the year 1973. And 1973 was a watershed year for this. It's a year of the highest standard of living as far as the average Joe goes. And then from there, it just looks like the letter V on its side, the lazy V. Picture a dot over here and picture a line going up and up. And these people just cashed in on it all. They became professional consumers, and they caused people to have to work more and more hours, and they end up living in poverty. And by the way, there's nothing you could do about it. You couldn't go in the courts, even courts in the United States, and say, look, these guys are malicious, and these guys are causing other people to have to work more hours. They're causing poverty, and you couldn't go into a court and stop them. Just so it said, you couldn't go into a court and stop them. Courts came out and said, we decided there will be no religion in government. And that was the bum's rush. They had the sexual revolution. In other words, they adopted malice. They threw out decency as a formal argument. And in other words, it was okay to make money by causing people to have to work more hours. And they did it by throwing out that dot, that real presence of Christ in the Eucharist, that the Catholic priest, the disposition of the Catholic priest. And look at the world. They kept it up for about a generation, and people are starving. There are abandoned neighborhoods in the United States. So I'm hoping somebody will pass the word. I'm hoping somebody will start calling in and chatting. This is ridiculous. I'm a gal. I'm going to straighten out my back, and I'm going to pull out the credit card, and this is what I need on the credit card to go shopping, get everybody out of poverty, get things going to work. And the same with the guy. This is ridiculous. I don't go to work just so I can pay rent to some guy who lives in the foothills. That's not what we're supposed to be doing in the United States. And I don't go and work all day just so that some communist intelligentsia can live in the foothills and put me in housing projects. I'll be my own man, then part of a well-oiled group. It's a completely different world. And it wasn't just courts, by the way. In psychology, that was when the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual is what the psychologists use to define what mental illness is. And they really never got a handle on just what they argued a lot. But they came out at the time and they said, we decided that homosexuality would no longer be a mental illness. Up until then, they regarded it as that. The bum's rush, or the hustle there, was that they decided that they threw out the idea of being normal and well-adjusted. Both the Catholic and the atheist define mental illness as the normal taken into the abnormal, from a cold to the flu to pneumonia. The Catholics say, hold on here, Joe, go backwards. From pneumonia back to the flu, back to a cold. The normal is normal, but not good enough. And forgive me, but the earthy example is sex. Sit in a chair, if you're a young man, fantasize about the gals until you become sexually aroused. Open your eyes, look around the room, do it again. Only this time you're trying to get the gal pregnant. You're fantasizing about actually getting her pregnant. And there you go. With a snap of a finger, you realize what original sin is. All those incredibly powerful emotions that have to do with creating life and getting the gal pregnant is just not a natural. To associate that with getting her pregnant just isn't a natural thing at all. And now I understand what original sin is. You can add fear to that. You can add the chimpanzee side to life to us. You can add the environment. Your environment changes your attitude changes your environment, and you have to be taught that. So there's a famous phrase: what takes away your free will? Fear, sex, ignorance, and violence. And then you go back, and in order to have a sense of free will, you have to have some other outside imposed thing, some computer cloud of an hourglass cloud of electrons up there that you sort of try and tune into, partly in your head and partly out up there. That's Christ. That, by the way, is a definition of faith. Going all the way back, going up there and saying, okay, I'll hold that as faith. And if I hold that as faith, I have the grand deduction. And now I'm normal and well adjusted, or I try to be. Now I try to have a normal supply and demand curve. And those things are definitely a religious thing. I maximize benefits and maximize utilities by trying to straighten myself up and willing the good of another person. Having the leadership style of washing the feet of the apostles, putting somebody in their own business. And that's how you get everybody out of poverty. Excuse me. And that's you at the moment. You hear all these horror stories, and they're very legitimate. You could hear, this is coming from Tucson. You can just see them and talk to them. It costs about $900, somewhere between $9,000 and $1,000 a month, for a young gal to put her child in a daycare center while she tries to make enough money to pay somebody else so that to raise her child. And that's just silly. You notice the women's liberation movement, they didn't do anything like that. They're up here. They cashed in on everything. These guys caused poverty. These guys in the middle are the normal supply and demand. It's a Catholic thing. You're the stereotypical 1950s housewife and husband. If these people won, these people down here in poverty wouldn't exist. They would have been pulled up and make money. But if these people won, these people wouldn't exist. But these people up here, Harry the hippie and Al the Afro and Donna the feminist, they couldn't exist. When these people exist, poverty exists. When these people exist, poverty disappears, but these people can't exist. They're at war with each other. What do these people do? They know how to manipulate, intimidate, hustle, and con. They hustle. They find the weak and attack them. They have a whole bag of tricks they use, and it works. You know how a pimp recruits a prostitute, don't you? It's a 3-stage process. He isolates the gal, the 15-year-old or 6 from the group on a Saturday night as she's a runaway or some such thing. She has to be down in some fashion. He isolates her, and as she's walking, he keeps her from moving in one direction or another. Stage 1. From the point of view of the gal, she can't walk in this direction. Stage 2, he touches her in some fashion. Excuse me. He shakes her hand, but then he doesn't let go. And so he's gone from out there to in here. And then stage 3, he goes from out there to in here to inside her head. He says something like this: hey, I have a temper, and I just don't know what I do when I have a temper. And then he gets her to agree with him. Right, he says, and then he might bend his legs a little bit and jump at her and say, right. You have to get an actor to do it, but I bet everybody knows what I'm talking about. And that's stage 3. From the point of view of the girl, she tells herself instantaneously, This guy's telling me I better be afraid of him or he's going to kill me. I have to get through this. I can't beat him up, so I shall act. But wait a minute. I'm not a good enough actor for this, so I better become like professional actors do. And so her attitude changes. If her attitude changes, that's it. He's got her. Those three stages are how a pimp recruits a prostitute. The only way she's going to get out of that if there is some outside other imposed act that lets her change her attitude back. And the most famous example of that is Catholic confession. That said, there's a whole group of them. Find one thing and attack it. Hey, you're wearing that shoe with those shoes? Okay, that's it. Give me $20. You're a decent human being, aren't you? Hey, put me in charge. You must let me run for office because you have to let everybody run for office. And now that I'm in office, I'm going to do away with a judicial court, a court that will establish facts that are true as true. I'm going to do away with a judicial press, and tough, live with it. And that's the sort of thing they do. I have a temper and I just don't know what I do. And if they get caught, you have to put your life on the line in order to say the word no. And if push comes to shove, they'll say, hey, I only meant it if I could get away with it. If I couldn't get away with it, I was just joking. There's a whole bunch of them. They're all based on the same thing. There's complete lack of empathy or love in the person, and the fact that they lie a lot. Just like opening up a book from a psychologist, and what they call a class of intelligentsia, other people call very mentally ill people. You can see that in debate about homosexuality. Really, excuse me, it really isn't about homosexuality, it's about malice. Sit there and put yourself in the character of trying to be normal and well-adjusted, and then the organization that comes down from that, there's people, kids have shoes on their feet, you live in a world of plenty, you start to have recreation time, and all these good things happen. Well, I hope someone's hearing this. I hope I went on Saturdays around this time just so somebody in Australia would hear this and chime in. It seemed important considering all the stuff. And I'll be on the air tomorrow at 12 noon, New York time. And so I'm hoping someone will hear and start passing the word. I hope you're a gal that'll start being bossy, the good kind of gal. We don't need the woke gals, as they say, and we don't need the female fighter pilots, the right-wing gals. We need Melania Trump. We need the professor of home economics, the professor of the Iowa School of Home Economics, vintage film on the computer. We need those nuns. We need our 1950s mom back. If we have her, then we can do something about it. If we have the guy, then there are things we can do to straighten things out, hopefully. Well, I hope to see you tomorrow at noon. I hope somebody hears this and passes the word. Until then,